Letter from the Gantry.
Well, Neil, you're right. It's strange because it should be called Letter from the Sofa. I've been at home for the past 4 weeks. It's the first football tournament that England have qualified for since the World Cup in 1970, where I've been watching on television rather than being on television. I've not missed a minute of the action in front of my screen, even with the simultaneous fixtures, and would like to compliment my many friends and former colleagues who've been broadcasting for all their excellent work. The viewers have been transported to the tournament with expertise and entertainment. It has been said that the advent of podcasts has changed the style in the studio to a lighter touch, but I don't agree. In the 1970s, I was a junior on ITV's World Cup coverage as a member of the production team and then a fledgling commentator. The heavyweights in that coverage, like Brian Clough, Malcolm Allison, Paddy Crerand, combined wisdom with plenty of wit. Ian St John and Jimmy Greaves, the Saint and Greavesy, with plenty of laughs, were just around the corner. In fact, the dressing room humour of the time has to be reined in now. The banter days have gone, and manners and etiquette are part of today's code of conduct, and rightly a sense of inclusivity has blossomed. Back in 1970, BBC ran a commentators competition for the general public, with the winner being guaranteed to broadcast a game from the World Cup finals in Mexico. I entered, sending in one of those old cassettes containing a sample of what I might offer given the chance, but with no previous experience, it was no surprise that I didn't make the final six. They were given what you might call a shout-off in a live programme, with the final selection to be made by a panel including none other than the winning World Cup manager of 1966 and the man leading the defence of that title in Mexico, Sir Alf Ramsey. I did, however, receive a prize for my entry, a book compiled by the BBC's lead commentator of the day, David Coleman. I suspect that every entrant had the same response, but it was a nice touch. I do remember 3 of those 6 who made it to Judgment Day, none of whom were named before the decision was made. Anonymity was the key. Jerry Harrison went on to have an outstanding commentary career with ITV, serving Anglia Television in particular for decades. The aforementioned Ian St John, who was still, I think, playing for Liverpool then, also made the shortlist, and for many viewers was the best newcomer on the night. The panel could decide on the top 2 out of the 6, but couldn't separate them, so the casting vote was given to Sir Alf. Now, the big rivalry when Ramsey was playing for England in the early post-war years, and when he subsequently became manager in 1963, was with Scotland. The suspicion at the time was that he wasn't going to give his support to a Scottish accent, even though he had no idea it belonged to Ian St John. A more charitable view, and one I would rather believe, is that he'd always appreciated the sound of a Welsh voice. And the other member of that top 2 was Idwal Robling, a former Wales amateur international at the time, who'd also had some commentary experience. Idwal got the nod from Sir Alf and got the job. He went to Mexico and subsequently had a good career in sports broadcasting. When the tournament began, Sir Alf took England to the quarterfinals and a 2-0 lead against West Germany. Watching at home in our family flat over the ironmonger's shop run by my dad, I saw the lead evaporate and the grip on the greatest trophy in world football slip from England's grasp. When the final whistle went on a 3-2 defeat, I went out into the streets and wandered aimlessly in sporting grief for hours. The whole nation was stunned. England didn't really recover for a decade. They failed to reach the climax of the Euros in 72, and falling short of reaching the 74 World Cup final spelt the end for Ramsey. He actually joined ITV for that summer's coverage in Germany. The 1976 Euros and the 1978 World Cup also passed by without England nailing down a place. I was more fortunate. The late substitution I mentioned in a recent letter gave me a taste of the 76 Euros, and I was given a World Cup debut in Argentina in 78. It was the start of a run of 24 tournaments where I've been present. This might have been the 25th, but I wasn't sure I was fit for purpose until November, after a couple of operations cured a vocal cord problem last summer, all cured. But quite rightly, all the commentary plans for the broadcasters had been put in place. There was no room for me. So Euro 2024 has been 50 games, for me, watched from a very different perspective. All enjoyed, and thanks to the joy of football and your interest, a window of opportunity to have a little say on the action and the issues. As for game 51, TV or not TV? That's the question.